So you don't know if you're really time traveling or not.
Sometimes you would realize it, yeah.
You might be just going like from one place to another.
Yeah, an alternate reality or, a pinnacle kind of, yeah.
Or an alternate imagination.
Yeah.
Like maybe someone else has this huge imagination. They make this like comic that has a bigger imagination than you do, and then you go into it and it's like you're entering another universe, but you're not really.
That storyline's been done. I don't know, kid. It just seems, it's not the total original idea that you think it would be.
No, but I'm just making a point, kind of. What I'm trying to say is this. If imagination is like an IQ and you can measure it, and some people have like bigger imaginations and some people have smaller imaginations, then the people with the bigger imaginations have a responsibility not to delude the people with the smaller imaginations.
Well, it's a tough question.
Is that an original question, or has that story been done?
It just sounds promising.
It's not really a storyline. It's more like people who have opportunities to do things that are good are more responsible than people that don't have opportunities to do things that are good. So if there's people with big imaginations that are creating pain and havoc in the world, then they're like supervillains kind of. And if there's people that like hold back and they don't corrupt the world or delude people with smaller imaginations, then they're kind of like the heroes of the world, right?
Yeah.
And all this occurs without there being any real supernatural anything. No superpowers at all. But just larger and smaller imaginations and more and less responsibility.
Yeah, like Uncle Ben always told me. What's that famous Spider-Man quote?
The famous Spider-Man quote. I don't know Spider-Man too well.
With vast power comes great responsibility.
Exactly, yeah. So it is kind of a theme in comics.
Yeah.
So the author of the comic probably sees himself in the comic as being the one responsible, as the superhero with the great responsibilities.
Mm-hmm. Especially Spider-Man. He's heard that from Uncle Ben.
How much are you being like corrupted by comics, and how much are you being uplifted and done right by comics?
Having fun with it. Kind of proud even for like our comic scene as it is. And I don't know. Yeah. I mean, these things we like basically are more in for things as more of an enlightenment than really kind of a thing you really need to learn from, even though you can.
But if comic books caused in you a mental illness, then do you think that the comic book writers are responsible for that?
No, I don't know.
That's kind of far-fetched, I guess.
Well, yeah, because I consider being mutant being schizophrenic. And schizophrenic is like an acid trip that never ended. Yeah, people say that, but yeah, it's an acid trip that never really ended. And with comics, yeah, even more eye candy to help guide you on your trip, if that ever comes to it.
Why would a person need to be on a trip, though? Why can't life be taken at face value?
Right.
Like, why wouldn't you read about how people really are, not how they could be?
Yeah. I mean, it's one to. Well, I don't know.
I mean, I'm not one to judge. I do the same. I read as an escape.
Yeah.
But art,
And yeah, it's better that way to actually make your brain do the hard work. By picturing it and the way you describe it in your mind.
so what we're discussing when we discuss seeing the face of the author and being a character is reality and fantasy. Do you want to live in a fantasy world, or do you want to live in reality?
Reality.
And what kind of brings your happiness out, the fantasy or the reality? For me, it's more reality. I like to find out what's true. I like to hear logic and things that are rational, and I like expressions and representations of life that are based on reality, that are like almost exact imitations, because I find that reality is more interesting than fantasy, because fantasy's made up kind of, and it's just kind of like they don't really know where they're going with their makeup. But whereas reality, it's based on something, it's an imitation of something, and fantasy is always to some extent based on reality, but it's not an explanation of reality. It's kind of an escape from reality. So what your view is, being a character and you look and you see the face of the author, how does it feel to be in the fantasy and not the reality?
It's like being like an imaginary friend to someone. And that's what the voices are like in some ways with schizophrenics.
Do you prefer the fantasy?
I don't know. I mean, a lot of my doctors used to like crack a smile and say, "Oh, yeah, such a clever clever delusions." It's just like, yeah, kind of living the fantasy of the reality of the fantasy.
And do they get mad, or?
Here and there, they all get mad.
Because they want you to return to reality and stick to reality, or what?
Yeah.
And what do you like? You like the bizarre?
Yeah, I got weird kind of tastes.
Like an attraction to absurdity?
Or confusion.
Confusion? Being lost,
Yeah.
losing control?
Here and there.
Well, that about wraps up our show. We have a few minutes left, but next week, this Sunday coming up, we're going to do a live show, and we're going to play a couple songs. Did you come up with a couple songs?
Yeah, I'll give them to you later.
Okay, and as for a topic, we don't have a topic yet, do we?
No, not yet.
But it'll for sure be interesting, and hope you come listen. And I'm James Hart.
And I'm Bill Duncan.
Goodbye, and see you Sunday.
Adios, muchachos.